Close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to awaken. Awaken to the unseen world that shapes the visible. You have been taught to believe only what you can touch, measure, and prove with your eyes open. But reality is not born from what you see. It is born from what you imagine, what you feel, and what you dare to accept as true before any evidence arrives. The secret isn't in waiting for proof. The power is in assuming the proof is already yours. The world bows to the image you hold within. Not tomorrow, not when you earn it, not when you work harder. Now, this moment, that's the power you've been given. Act as if you see it for yourself first, not with your physical eyes, but with the eyes of inner vision, of faith, of knowing. For that is the only seeing that creates. Most live backwards. They wait to see something change before they change within. They wait for someone to love them before they feel lovable. They wait for the bank balance to grow before they feel wealthy. They wait for the doctor's report to improve before they feel well. But life does not respond to hesitation. It responds to conviction. And conviction is born in the unseen realm where only you and God reside. You are not at the mercy of the world. The world is at the mercy of your assumption. What you accept as real within becomes law without. So act as if you see for yourself first. Feel the outcome before it unfolds. Walk with the calm confidence of one who already knows how the story ends. Others may call it delusion, but those same people will one day call you lucky, because you believed in silence. You stood still and saw the salvation of your desire. Ask yourself, how would you speak if you already had it? How would you move if it were already yours? How would you think, love, give, sleep, wake, and breathe if what you wanted was no longer a desire but a fact? Don't wait for the world to change its reflection. Change the image you hold, and the mirror must comply. Your imagination is not a playground, it is a workshop, a holy temple where the future is carved out of feeling. Do not underestimate the whispers of your inner world. They are not fantasies, they are blueprints, plans, decrees waiting to be made flesh. You must act with the assurance of one who has seen, not seen with eyes but with spirit. That invisible seeing is the foundation of all miracles. You don't beg reality to bend, you command it through assumption. And that command is not loud or boastful, it is quiet, firm, and unmoved. It does not flinch in the face of contradiction. It does not panic when things look the opposite. It holds because it knows the outer must follow the inner. There is no waiting in the spiritual world, there is only claiming, only possessing. The moment you see for yourself within, the process begins. Do not ask when, do not ask how. Time is a servant of belief. Circumstances are slaves to your inner world. Persist in your assumption and let the winds of reality turn in your favor. Do you want freedom? Then walk as if you are already free. Do you want wealth? Then live as though lack has no place in your life. Do you want love? Then become the embodiment of love, radiating wholeness rather than longing. You cannot attract what you believe is missing. You attract what you believe is already present. That is the great paradox and the great power. Every time you act as if you see it for yourself first, you honor the God within you. You align yourself with divine authority. You step into the original power that said, let there be, and there was. This power does not explain, it does not wait, it does not apologize, it declares. And then it rests, knowing the world must shape itself around that word. Stop looking outside for permission. Stop asking others if your dream is valid. The only validation you need is your own assumption. You are not waiting for a door to open. You are the one who opens it. By walking as though it already stands wide before you. Every step you take in faith is a seed sown into the soil of reality. And what you plant in feeling, you will harvest in form. So today, begin. Begin to see for yourself first. Begin to think like one who already has. Feel it, wear it, live in it. Refuse to negotiate with doubt. Do not let the echo of an old life keep you from the new one that is calling your name. Be bold, be still, be certain. You do not need the world to show you. You need only to see it within, and the world will catch up. Close your eyes to the world and open them inward. The first and most sacred act of creation does not begin with your hands or with your voice. It begins with your inner eye, the imagination, that quiet, invisible realm where you see for yourself what no one else can yet see. It is in that space when you dare to hold an image, a scene, a reality, and treat it as fact before the world has any evidence, that you activate the true power of creation. The world outside of you is not the cause of your life, it is the effect. It is a mirror, nothing more. And mirrors do not initiate, they reflect. You must become the initiator. You must see it within, not as a wish, not as a hope, not as a maybe, but as something already done. People believe they're waiting on time, waiting on chances, waiting on opportunities, but time is not holding back your blessing. Your refusal to see it inwardly is the only delay. You say, I'll believe it when I see it. But life is always whispering back, you'll see it when you believe it. You must reverse the order. Inner vision must come before outer confirmation. Think of the artist who paints a masterpiece. He does not wait for the canvas to tell him what to paint. He closes his eyes, sees the final creation in his mind, and begins to move his hand in line with that vision. Every stroke is guided by what is already completed in his imagination. In the same way, your life will begin to shape itself according to the image you dare to see and feel inside yourself. Most people live as prisoners of what is. They react, they adjust, they wait for something to happen so they can respond. But those who create their lives on purpose do not respond to the world, they summon it. They impose their inner vision on it. They say, this is who I am, this is what I have, this is what I walk in, and the world, like a faithful servant, rearranges itself to match the belief held within. The inner world is the cause, the outer world is the result. There is no other order. To attempt to fix life by rearranging things outside of you, while your inner world remains the same, is to decorate the mirror and hope your reflection changes. But nothing in the mirror moves until you move. This is the reason the dreamers, the visionaries, and the so-called crazy ones are often misunderstood. They walk with a confidence that seems irrational. They speak as if what they want is already true. And people laugh, they mock, they say, who does he think he is? But deep inside, that person is holding the seed of reality. They are seeing for themselves first. And that is why one day when the laughter fades, the world will marvel, not because something lucky happened to them, but because they knew how to make the invisible become visible. They stayed loyal to the image within when no one else believed it. That is the great secret. To remain faithful to the vision when there's no evidence, no support, and no sign. That's where power lives. Children understand this power better than most adults. A child can close their eyes and believe they are a superhero. And for those moments, they live in that world. They see it, they feel it, they act as if it's real. And in that moment, to them, it is real. But then the adult world teaches them to doubt, to fear, to only believe what is already proven. And so they grow up and forget how to create. They wait, they plead, they settle, and they wonder why life feels flat and uninspired. The truth is, they've stopped seeing. They've stopped imagining. They've stopped acting as if. They've forgotten that the only eyes that matter are the eyes of the heart. Inner vision is not a fantasy. It is instruction to the universe. It is the blueprint sent to reality saying, build this. When you hold a scene in your mind and return to it day after day, not with desperation but with love and certainty, the wheels begin to turn. You may not see it immediately, but under the surface, movement has begun. Resources are shifting. People are being nudged. Doors are unlocking. But none of that can happen unless you first dare to see for yourself. You must be the author of your own movie, not the audience waiting to see how it ends. Take the pen back. Write the scene. Feel the outcome. Sit in the theater of your imagination and play the movie of your future again and again until it feels more real than your current surrounding. Reality as you know it is only hardened imagination. What you see now is the result of what you imagined before, whether consciously or unconsciously. And what you will see tomorrow depends entirely on what you are willing to see today, not with your eyes, but with your belief. The most important question you must ask yourself is not what do I want, but what do I see? Because if you can see it, really see it, own it, feel it, embody it, then nothing can stop it from becoming your world. But if you cannot see it inside, no amount of striving will make it appear outside. So practice daily the art of inner seeing. Close your eyes and become who you want to be. Don't wait for a change in circumstances, become it in thought. Feel it in your body, walk in it mentally, speak from it emotionally. Carry it like a secret that only you and God know about, and soon the world will know it too. Because the world has no choice but to reflect the image that burns most brightly within you. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to surrender your senses and fully immerse yourself in the invisible reality of your desire as though it were already yours. This is not imagination as a tool for escape. It is imagination used as an engine of manifestation. When you assume the feeling, you're not pretending. You're not hoping. You are aligning with a reality that already exists within you, and by feeling it as real, you give it permission to express itself in the world around you. Most people misunderstand this principle. They believe that if they want something, they must wish harder, pray louder, or act more desperately. But desperation is not faith. Longing is not fulfillment. Wanting something only reinforces its absence. The moment you say, I want this, you are declaring that you do not have it. And what you feel, most consistently, is what life responds to. So if your dominant emotional state is one of lack, then you will experience more lack no matter how much you try to attract its opposite. But when you assume the feeling of already having what you desire, the entire tone of your being shifts. You walk differently, you think differently. You speak with a new rhythm, and you act from a different center of gravity. That shift is what creation listens to. To assume the feeling is to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You bring the future into the now. You collapse time with the force of your inner conviction. It is not merely imagining a thing. You must become the version of yourself who already lives in that reality. How would you feel if the thing you desire were already true? Would there be relief? Would there be peace? Would there be joy? Would there be a sense of lightness in your chest or a new breath of freedom in your body? That feeling is the signature of the state you wish to enter, and once you step into it emotionally, you begin to attract circumstances, people, and events that confirm that emotional reality. Let's say you desire financial abundance. The mistake is to dwell in the emotion of needing money, worrying about money, or chasing after it with anxiety. That only makes the absence of money your emotional home. But when you assume the feeling of already being abundant, even if your outer world doesn't reflect it yet, you create a magnetic field that aligns with prosperity. You begin to think like someone who has enough. You begin to give, share, and move with a sense of flow rather than fear. That internal security, that emotional assurance, begins to mold the outer world to match it. Life follows your dominant vibration, not your spoken wishes, but the silent language of your emotions. This is why nighttime is powerful. In those quiet hours, just before sleep, your mind drifts into that fertile space where the subconscious listens without resistance. If you go to bed feeling poor, unloved, or broken, that feeling becomes the soil of tomorrow's experience. But if you deliberately relax into the feeling of your desire fulfilled, if you fall asleep as the man who already has what he once only dreamed of, then your subconscious takes that as truth and begins to shape reality around that truth. You do not need to manipulate the world. You only need to change the emotional state from which you operate. That change happens in stillness, in silence, in the privacy of your inner sanctuary. The world is a mirror, but a delayed one. It reflects not what you momentarily feel, but what you consistently dwell in. So the question is not, what do I want to feel, but what am I repeatedly feeling now? You can say all the right words, you can affirm wealth, love, health, and success, but if you go about your day feeling anxious, inferior, or desperate, then your true command to the universe is not your words, it is your emotional tone. That's why assuming the feeling is so vital. It bypasses the surface mind and speaks directly to the core of who you are. It doesn't matter whether the world agrees yet. It doesn't matter if the facts seem to contradict you. You are not living by facts. You are living by faith in what you feel to be true. When you assume the feeling, you stop chasing and start becoming. You are no longer a beggar at the gates of life. You are a creator walking in your kingdom. You move with certainty, not because the world is showing you confirmation, but because your inner world has already accepted it. And when your inner world accepts something is true, the outer world must obey. That is the law, that is the design. You are not a victim of life's randomness, you are the cause. This is why you must practice the feeling deliberately. Sit in stillness. Drop into the version of yourself who already has what you want. Let it wash over you like warm water. Let the smile rise without effort. Let the tension leave your body. Let gratitude fill your chest, not because it's coming, but because it's already here. That feeling, when sustained, becomes a prayer more powerful than words. It is not asking, it is claiming. And that claim will reshape the very atmosphere around you. Every desire you hold is not a hope for the future. It is a memory of what already exists in the unseen. You are not trying to create something new. You are remembering your inheritance. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is how you access that memory. You step into it like a robe. You wear it, live in it, and walk forward as though no other reality could possibly exist. Others may not understand. They may tell you to be realistic, but reality is shaped by the dreamer who refuses to feel anything other than fulfillment. It is shaped by the one who dares to smile before the miracle, who laughs while the seed is still buried, who celebrates before the world has caught up. Because in the spiritual art of things it already exists, and when you feel it deeply enough, the world must rearrange itself to show you what you already know to be true. Faith is not wishful thinking. It is not hoping that something might happen if the stars align or circumstances become favorable. Faith is the deep, unwavering knowing that what you have accepted in your inner world must unfold, no matter what the outer world says. It is the eyes of the soul that see beyond appearances, beyond facts, beyond logic, and hold firm to what the heart has claimed as true. To walk by faith is to see clearly even in darkness. It is to look at an empty field and already feel the harvest in your hands. It is to hold joy in your chest when the world offers no visible reason for celebration, and yet you celebrate because you have seen with the only eyes that matter. Most people believe only what their physical senses report. They look around and let their environment determine what they believe is possible. If their bank account is low, they say they are poor. If no one calls, they say they are unloved. If they are in pain, they say they are sick. But faith does not operate by this shallow report. Faith is not moved by the condition of the bank account, or the silence of the phone, or the ache in the body. Faith moves by vision, and that vision is internal. It is the inner declaration that says, despite what I see, I know what I know. I know what I've accepted, I know what I've claimed, and I will not be shaken. To truly live in faith, you must ignore the evidence that contradicts your assumption. This is not denial, it is discipline. It is refusing to allow temporary facts to override eternal truths. You must become so loyal to your inner vision that nothing outside of you can make you doubt it. That means when the bill arrives, you bless it, knowing provision is already in motion. When someone rejects you, you remain calm, knowing that love is yours in abundance. When your body aches, you speak with authority, not pleading for healing, but affirming that healing is already present. Faith is the great reversal. It tells you to believe first, and then you will see, not the other way around. The danger of relying on the senses is that they always report the past. Your eyes can only see what has already happened. Your ears can only hear what has already been said. But your imagination sees what is coming. Your inner vision shows you the seeds before they bloom. That is why you cannot trust appearances. They are delayed echoes of yesterday's beliefs. If you want to change your life, you cannot wait for your senses to confirm your new belief. You must adopt that belief now, feel it now, live in it now, and let the senses catch up in their own time. They will, they must. But only after you've stopped letting them lead. Faith is the boldness to declare what you see within, even when it looks ridiculous to everyone else. It is the courage to speak as though your dream is already complete, while standing in the middle of circumstances that appear opposite. The world may call it delusion, but the one who walks in faith knows it is truth. Truth is not determined by sight. It is determined by conviction. The greater your conviction, the faster your world bends to match it. And that conviction comes from seeing clearly on the inside, not from waiting for others to agree with you. You must become the kind of person who, when nothing is working, still gives thanks. Who, when doors are closing, still walks as though they are opening. Who, when feeling small, still speaks with the voice of a giant. Because that kind of person is not led by fear or circumstance. They are led by vision, and vision is the fuel of faith. When you walk by sight, you shrink to match your environment. But when you walk by faith, your environment expands to match your belief. It takes discipline to keep your eyes closed to what contradicts your inner truth. The world will always give you reasons to give up, to feel discouraged, to lower your expectations. But those who create the impossible do not listen to those voices. They turn inward, they return to their vision, they feel it until it becomes more real than what they see. And they stay there, not for a moment, but as a way of life. They refuse to let the outside determine the inside. Instead, they let the inside shape the outside. Do not measure your life by what is, measure it by what you've claimed. Speak from that place, feel from that place, think from that place. The world will test you. It will show you shadows and try to convince you they are permanent. But shadows cannot exist without light. Your faith is that light, and when you hold to it long enough, the shadows must flee. Remember, what you see with your physical eyes is not reality. It is the residue of a past belief. If you want to step into a new reality, you must look with different eyes. Eyes that are not afraid to see beauty where others see lack. Eyes that recognize abundance in the invisible. Eyes that say, I see it for myself. I believe it for myself. I know it is mine even now. That is faith. Not hoping, not waiting, but knowing. When you walk by faith, the need to prove disappears. You no longer beg or chase or panic. You simply live in the state of your fulfilled desire and let the world adjust. And it will, because the world is not the master, it is the mirror. And what you hold most firmly within will always be reflected without. Faith is the anchor in the unseen, the bridge to the unmanifest, and the guarantee that what you have dared to see in your heart will one day stand before you in full form. You've been told your entire life that hard work is the key to success, that effort and sweat alone can move mountains. But there is a deeper truth, a more powerful principle at play beneath all the striving. Your world does not respond to your effort, it responds to your assumption. The energy you put into something is not what draws the outcome. It is the belief behind that energy that creates. You can hustle day and night, but if your inner dialogue is still one of lack, fear, or doubt, you will only attract experiences that validate that inner state. On the other hand, when you act from the conviction that what you want is already yours, without resistance or uncertainty, you begin to shape the world with invisible hands. The universe is not reacting to how much you do, it is reacting to who you believe you are. It listens not to your actions alone, but to the identity from which those actions are born. If you work like someone who is desperate, anxious, and unsure, your results will reflect that vibration. But if you work like someone who already has everything aligned, whose success is inevitable, whose future is secured, then even your smallest step carries the force of a giant leap. The outer world cannot help but reflect the assumptions you carry about yourself. This is not a mystical idea, it is the unspoken law that governs creation. There are people who do very little in the eyes of the world, yet everything flows to them with ease. And then there are others who work tirelessly, yet can't seem to break through. The difference is not luck. It is alignment. It is the state of being from which they operate. The first group assumes success as a natural state. They walk with a quiet inner assurance. They do not question whether they are worthy or capable. They live in the assumption that life supports them, and so it does. The second group lives in a state of resistance. Their efforts are fueled by fear. They are chasing rather than allowing. And the more they chase, the more the thing they want seems to run from them. To shift your world, you must shift your assumption. Do not wait until life changes to feel like a winner. Feel like a winner now. Carry yourself like one. Speak like one. Make decisions like one. It is not arrogance. It is faith. It is not fantasy. It is alignment with a higher reality, already present within you. When you operate from that place, the world bends in your favor. Not because you forced it, but because you matched the frequency of your desire. Everything in your experience is responding to your self-concept, not your schedule. If you believe yourself to be wealthy, life will find a way to mirror that belief. If you believe yourself to be unloved or forgotten, life will echo that too. You are the projector, not the screen. This is why effort without inner belief can feel like running in circles. You push and push, but nothing changes, because you are trying to build a new life while clinging to an old identity. You cannot claim abundance while secretly feeling unworthy. You cannot manifest love while quietly believing you are unwanted. The assumption you live from is more powerful than anything you do. It determines the shape of every interaction, the outcome of every opportunity, and the tone of every day. It sets the thermostat for your life, and no matter how hard you work, your results will return to match that internal setting until you change it. The beautiful truth is that you do not need to force anything to change. You only need to accept the new assumption and let your world follow. Life is more malleable than you think. People, events, circumstances, they are not fixed. They are reflections taking shape around your dominant beliefs. So ask yourself, what do I consistently assume to be true about myself? What do I believe is possible? What reality do I feel at home in, even if I say I want something different? Because until your inner world shifts, the outer world cannot help but repeat the old story. But once you adopt a new assumption and live from it, not occasionally, but consistently, then change becomes inevitable. Stop thinking in terms of how much more you have to do, and start thinking in terms of who you need to be. Because when you become the person who already has it, everything begins to flow. You won't have to convince others of your value, they will feel it. You won't need to chase money, it will find you. You won't have to beg for love, it will recognize you. The world treats you as you treat yourself in the silence of your heart, based on what you say you want, but based on who you assume you are. You must stop looking to the world for feedback on who you are and start telling the world who you are by your inner stance. You are not waiting for circumstances to shift, you are the shift. You are not waiting for things to happen, you are happening. The moment you step into a new self-concept and walk in it without apology or hesitation, the universe has no choice but to reflect it. The change begins in the unseen, in the way you carry yourself when no one is watching, in the way you speak to yourself in the quiet of your thoughts, in the way you silently declare, "This is who I am now," and act accordingly. Let the world misunderstand you. Let them think you've changed. Let them whisper that you've become too confident, too certain, too calm. That's what happens when you live from a new assumption. You are no longer reacting to life, you are directing it. And every assumption you make is a seed planted in the soil of your subconscious, ready to bloom in perfect time. You do not need to dig it up or check on it every hour. You need only to water it with faith, consistency, and gratitude. And soon, without strain, without force, it will rise before you as the new reality you always knew was coming. To live from the end is to abandon the mindset of striving and step into the consciousness of arrival. It is to no longer act like someone hoping for something to happen, but to think, feel, and behave as though it already has. It is the quiet certainty that your desire is not on its way, it is here. Even when the world shows no sign, even when the facts contradict you, you remain unmoved because you are not living toward the outcome. You are living from it. This is the key difference between those who merely wish and those who create. One looks ahead and chases, the other looks within and claims. When you live from the end, you do not visualize to escape reality, you visualize to command it. You close your eyes and dwell in the state where your desire is already fulfilled, and you carry that state with you like a fragrance. Every word you speak, every choice you make, every breath you take flows from the assumption that what you desire is already fact. And this assumption becomes a seed planted in the soil of reality, watered by faith, nourished by repetition, and protected by inner silence. No one else needs to see it for it to be real. No one else needs to agree with it for it to take shape. It lives in you, and from you it emerges. People struggle because they live in the in-between. They say they believe, but continue to act, feel, and speak as if the outcome is uncertain. They talk about their dreams as if they are distant possibilities rather than present truths. And so they remain stuck in a state of waiting for signs, waiting for conditions to improve, waiting for the right time. But life does not yield to hesitation, it yields to boldness. To live from the end is to declare with your entire being, "This is already done," and then conduct yourself accordingly. You don't wait for the door to open. You walk through it in your spirit. And once your inner world moves, the outer world must rearrange to match. Think of how you would feel if your dream were already fulfilled. How would your body respond? What would your posture be like? Would there be a lightness in your step? Would your thoughts flow with ease and certainty? That feeling is the key. That emotional atmosphere is the state you must inhabit. Not once, not occasionally, but continuously. When you live from the end, you visit that state so often, it becomes more familiar than your current circumstances, and eventually, your current reality has no choice but to give way. This principle applies to every area of life. If you desire love, don't wait to feel loved now. Walk as someone who is cherished, respected, and adored. Speak to yourself with the tenderness and honor you expect from another. Make decisions as someone who already has the kind of relationship they dream about. If you desire success, stop acting like a seeker and start acting like a possessor. Trust your choices. Show up like someone whose success is already written. The world does not resist the one who knows who they are. It only mirrors back the level of certainty you hold within. Living from the end is not fantasy, it is alignment. It is the art of choosing your emotional home before the world gives you permission to. And it is this inner alignment that causes the external evidence to appear. You are not conjuring something out of thin air. You are tuning into the reality that already exists in the unseen. Just because others cannot see it yet does not make it any less real. What you feel deeply, what you assume with conviction, what you mentally rehearse again and again becomes your lived experience. This is why imagination is sacred. It is the place where you practice the future, where you taste the fruit before it appears on the branch, where you rehearse the reactions of someone who already has everything they once prayed for. The more vividly you dwell in this end scene, the faster your subconscious accepts it as true. And once it accepts it, it begins to guide your thoughts, your behaviors, and even the behavior of others to bring it into form. You don't need to figure out how. The how is none of your concern. You need only to stay in the state of the end, to hold it, to trust it, to embody it so completely that doubt no longer feels natural. You are not called to live in preparation. You are called to live in realization. Every time you say, I'm becoming, you delay. But when you say, I am, you create. You are not on the way to abundance, you are abundant. You are not chasing love, you are love embodied. You are not pursuing success, you are successful now. These declarations are not affirmations to make you feel better. They are bridges to the reality you claim. When you cross that bridge internally, the outer world will follow. It always does, but it requires discipline, because the outer world will test your resolve. It will throw appearances at you that seem to contradict your assumption. That's when you must stand firm. That's when you must say, no, this is not my truth. I know who I am. I know what I've claimed, and I will not move from it. The storm may rage, but the one who lives from the end is anchored. They are not tossed around by every emotion or delay. They walk with calm authority because they have already arrived. The outer journey is just the unfolding of what is already complete inside. So stop living like your dream is a distant land. Stop speaking as if you're still waiting. Bring the end into the present. Feel it now, live in it now, think from it, not toward it. Let your actions rise from the knowing that it is already yours, and as you do, the world will shift. Not because you forced it, but because you dared to embody the truth before it appeared. This is the art of manifestation, not effort, not struggle, but assumption made flesh through faithful feeling. You are not waiting for the end to come, you are the end. Live from it and watch as the world catches up. The way you move through your day is not just a matter of habit. It is the foundation upon which your reality is built. Those who possess great wealth do not simply follow routines. They embody an entirely different state of being. They do not chase success, they assume it. They do not wait for opportunities. They prepare a space within their consciousness for them to appear. Their daily routines are not rituals of effort. but expressions of certainty. Before the world awakens, they rise, not in struggle, but in intention. They understand that the first moments of the day shape the entire unfolding of events. In the stillness of the early hours, they do not dwell on problems. They see only the fulfillment of their desires. They engage in quiet reflection, visualizing their world as they wish it to be, not as it appears. Their minds are not clouded with doubts, for they have already chosen their reality. As they move through the day, their actions are precise, deliberate. They do not waste energy on distractions, nor do they react to circumstances as victims. They act from a place of inner authority, knowing that the external world is merely a reflection of their internal assumptions. Where others see limitations, they see possibilities. Where others hesitate, they move with conviction. They surround themselves with environments that reinforce their state of wealth. The spaces they inhabit, the people they associate with, the words they speak, all of it is an extension of their inner world. They do not dwell on failures or entertain conversations of lack. They engage only in ideas that expand their vision, align with their abundance, and affirm their reality. They are masters of their emotions, not slaves to them. When faced with challenges, they do not react impulsively. They respond with composure, knowing that all things rearrange themselves to fit their dominant state of mind. They do not live in a world of struggle. They live in a world that bends to their will. At night, before they surrender to sleep, they do not review the day's shortcomings. They see only the fulfillment of their desires, replaying in their minds the experiences they wish to manifest. They do not go to sleep in worry. They drift into the unconscious in the feeling of wealth, power, and success already achieved. And so their reality reflects their assumptions, not by force, not by luck, but by the unshakable knowing that what they believe within must take form without. Wealth is not something that is pursued, it is something that is embodied. The truly wealthy do not spend their days in frantic effort chasing after success, hoping that their actions will someday bring them the life they desire. Instead, they assume a state of being that naturally attracts wealth. They do not ask whether they will succeed. They live in the certainty that success is already theirs. It is this deep inner conviction that sets them apart from those who struggle endlessly without results. The outer world, being nothing more than a reflection of the inner state, simply conforms to what they already believe to be true about themselves. The super-rich do not see wealth as something separate from them, something they must earn through toil and sacrifice. They understand that wealth is an extension of their consciousness, a mirror of their state of mind. A person who views themselves as struggling, who sees money as something difficult to obtain, will always experience lack. It does not matter how hard they work or how many opportunities come their way. Their subconscious state will reject wealth because it does not align with their deep-seated assumptions. But those who are truly rich do not think in terms of scarcity. They do not believe in limitation. Even before they had their wealth, they lived in the feeling of already having it. This state of being is not dependent on circumstances. It does not matter whether they were born into privilege or started with nothing. Many of the wealthiest individuals in history came from humble beginnings, yet they carried within them an unshakable certainty that they were destined for abundance. They did not allow their current reality to dictate their beliefs. Instead, they chose to believe in their wealth before it had physically appeared. They walked through life with the mindset of a person who already possessed all they desired. They spoke, acted, and carried themselves as though success was inevitable. And because the outer world must always conform to the dominant inner state, their reality eventually reflected their assumptions. The truly wealthy are not consumed by fear of losing what they have. Those who live in fear of losing money, of making the wrong financial decisions, of scarcity, are unknowingly holding themselves in a state of lack. Fear is an admission that one does not truly believe in their own wealth. If a person truly embodied wealth as a state of being, they would never fear its absence. The super-rich understand this, and so they do not cling desperately to money. They do not hesitate in their financial decisions. They do not second-guess themselves or worry about losing their fortune. Instead, they operate from a deep trust in abundance. They know that money is simply an expression of their state of mind, and as long as they maintain the inner certainty of wealth, the material manifestation must follow. They do not concern themselves with external conditions, economic downturns, market fluctuations, global crises. These things do not dictate their inner state. While others panic and shrink back in fear, they remain steady in their assumption of abundance. They understand that their wealth does not come from external factors, but from their own consciousness. This is why, even in times of uncertainty, they continue to thrive. Their belief in their wealth is unwavering, and so their reality continues to reflect that belief, regardless of what is happening in the world around them. This mindset extends beyond money. It shapes every aspect of their lives, the way they carry themselves, the way they interact with others, the way they make decisions. It all comes from a place of confidence and self-assurance. They do not shrink in the presence of those who have more than them. They do not feel inferior or intimidated. Even before they had wealth, they acted as though they belonged in the world of the successful. They placed themselves in the environments they aspired to be in. They spoke with authority, knowing that they were already worthy of the life they desired. They do not waste time doubting themselves. While many people hesitate, wondering if they are capable, if they are deserving, if they will ever achieve success, the super-rich move with certainty. They do not entertain thoughts of failure. They do not indulge in conversations about lack or struggle. They speak only of possibility, of expansion, of the next great opportunity. Their language, both spoken and internal, reflects a deep belief in their own power. This is why their wealth continues to grow. Money flows effortlessly to those who do not resist it. The moment a person starts to question whether they will have enough, whether they will be able to sustain their wealth, whether they are truly capable of achieving success, they have already placed themselves in a state of lack. And once they are in that state, their reality must reflect it. But those who are truly wealthy do not think in these terms. They do not ask whether they will succeed. They assume they already have. Their daily routines reinforce this state of being. From the moment they wake up, they do not see themselves as individuals trying to achieve wealth. They see themselves as already being wealthy. Their thoughts, their emotions, their actions, all of it aligns with that inner knowing. When they walk into a room, they do not carry the energy of someone hoping to be noticed. They carry the energy of someone who is already recognized and respected. They expect doors to open for them, and so they do. They expect opportunities to appear effortlessly, and so they do. They do not view work as a means to an end. They do not labor under the belief that they must struggle in order to receive. Instead, they approach their work from a place of joy and creativity. They do what they love, and they do it with the expectation that it will bring them great rewards. They understand that money is not earned through effort alone. It is attracted through the alignment of one's inner state with the feeling of already having abundance. They do not spend time complaining. They do not engage in conversations that reinforce struggle or limitation. They do not waste energy on thoughts of what they lack. Instead, they focus entirely on what they desire, knowing that their focus is the creative force that shapes their world. They are constantly envisioning their next level of success, their next expansion, their next great achievement. They do not dwell in the past, nor do they allow themselves to be consumed by regrets. They are always looking forward, always anticipating the next manifestation of their desires. This is why they are different from those who struggle. It is not their intelligence, their background, or their resources that make them wealthy. It is their state of being. They do not wait for proof of their wealth before believing in it. They believe in it first, and then the world must conform. They understand that reality is not something that happens to them. It is something they create, and they create it effortlessly, simply by assuming the state of already having all that they desire. The way a person begins their day is not just a habit, it is a declaration of their reality. The super-rich do not wake up and passively fall into the day, reacting to circumstances, checking their phones mindlessly, or allowing external events to dictate their emotions. Instead, they rise with purpose, with clarity, and with an unwavering sense of intention. They understand that the first few moments after waking are the most powerful. for they set the tone for everything that follows. The way they feel upon waking, the thoughts they entertain, and the assumptions they hold in those early moments shape not only the events of the day, but the very fabric of their lives. Before the rest of the world stirs, before emails flood in and demands arise, they take control of their minds. They do not allow random unconscious thoughts to dictate their day. Instead, they deliberately enter into a state of gratitude, confidence, and expectation. They know that their inner world is the cause and their outer world is the effect, and so they make it a priority to align themselves with the feeling of success before they even take a single action. For the truly wealthy, the morning is not a time to dwell on problems, analyze worries, or relive past failures. They do not start their day with hesitation or doubt. They do not waste the precious moments after waking by scrolling through distractions or letting the external world program their minds. Instead, they focus only on what they desire, on what they intend to create, and on the certainty that all things are aligning in their favor. They understand that the subconscious mind is most impressionable in the early hours of the morning, and they use this knowledge to their advantage. They do not wake up and immediately check messages, emails, or news that might disrupt their inner peace. They do not allow negativity to enter their consciousness before they have set the foundation for their day. Instead, they take deliberate time to center themselves in the state of already having what they seek. They visualize the success they desire as though it has already happened. They see themselves walking through the day with ease, attracting opportunities, and handling challenges with grace. This is why they do not wake up feeling rushed, stressed, or overwhelmed. They do not wake up with thoughts of lack, scarcity, or struggle. Instead, they rise with the inner knowing that they are in control of their destiny. They understand that they are not merely responding to the world, they are creating it. And so, before they engage with the external world, they ensure that their internal world is aligned with success. Their first thoughts are not accidental. They are deliberate. They do not wake up thinking, "What problems do I have to face today?" or "What if things go wrong?" They do not allow their minds to drift into uncertainty. Instead, they set the expectation that the day will unfold in their favor. They wake up with thoughts of abundance, of power, of unshakable confidence. They remind themselves that they are already the person they wish to be, and they allow that belief to guide every action they take. They know that emotions are the driving force behind creation. The thoughts they entertain in the morning are not just words in their minds, they are the energy that shapes their experiences. If they wake up feeling powerful, their day will reflect that power. If they wake up feeling abundant, the world will present them with evidence of that abundance. If they wake up expecting success, they will encounter situations that confirm that success. They do not leave this process to chance. They do not allow old patterns or external influences to dictate how they feel. They choose, in every moment, to align with the reality they desire. This is why their mornings are filled with intention. Some of them meditate not to escape reality, but to tune into the frequency of wealth and success. Some of them visualize seeing themselves already in possession of everything they seek. Others engage in physical movement, not just for health, but because they understand that movement energizes the mind and body, preparing them to receive all that the day has to offer. Whatever their practice, the common thread is the same. They take time to step into the feeling of being the person they know themselves to be. They do not start their day focusing on what is missing. They do not dwell on what they lack. They do not begin the morning in a state of longing. Instead, they step into the feeling of already having it. They assume that success is already theirs, that opportunities are already flowing, that money is already moving toward them. And because they assume it, it must be so. Their energy is different from those who struggle. While others wake up feeling burdened, overwhelmed, or anxious about the day ahead, the super rich wake up with a deep sense of ease. They do not feel the need to chase after success, for they know it is already theirs. They do not rush through the morning in a frenzy trying to control every detail. Instead, they move with certainty, knowing that their state of being is what determines their reality. They expect things to work out for them, and so they do. They expect to meet the right people, and so they do. They expect opportunities to present themselves, and so they do. They do not wake up doubting whether they will succeed. They wake up knowing that success is inevitable. This knowing, this deep inner certainty, is what separates them from those who struggle. It is not luck, it is not chance. It is the result of mastering the mind and intentionally choosing the state of being that attracts wealth and success. Their mornings are sacred because they understand that the first few moments of the day are where reality is shaped. They do not waste this time on trivial matters or meaningless distractions. They do not allow themselves to be thrown into a reactive state by external noise. Instead, they take command of their thoughts, their emotions, and their assumptions, ensuring that they are aligned with the life they desire. They do not start their day hoping for success. They start it knowing that success is already unfolding. They do not look for signs that things are working out. They assume that everything is working out in their favor. They do not wait for circumstances to prove their worth. They step into the day with the energy of someone who already has everything they desire, and because they begin their day in this way, the world responds accordingly. Their interactions are smoother. Their decisions are clearer. Their energy attracts the right people, the right situations, the right ideas. They move through the day with effortless confidence, not because they are lucky, but because they have already claimed success in their minds. This is the power of intention. The way they start their day is not just a routine, it is the foundation upon which their entire reality is built. They do not leave it to chance, they do not wait for the world to dictate how they feel. They choose, from the moment they wake up, to step into the feeling of wealth, power, and certainty. And because they choose it, it must be so. The way one interacts with time determines the level of wealth and success they experience. Time is not something to be managed, it is something to be commanded. The super rich understand that time is not their enemy, nor is it something that slips away from them. They do not chase time, they do not feel overwhelmed by its passing, and they do not waste it on things that do not align with their vision. They move through their day with a sense of mastery, knowing that their relationship with time directly impacts their results. While many people see time as a limitation, the super rich see it as their greatest asset. They do not think in terms of hours lost or tasks unfinished. They do not stress over a lack of time, for they do not operate from lack in any form. Instead, they align their actions with their highest vision and use time as a tool to bring that vision into reality. They understand that time bends to the energy of those who know how to use it. They do not fill their schedules with meaningless tasks just to feel productive. They do not confuse being busy with being effective. The average person spends their days reacting, answering emails, responding to demands, rushing from one obligation to the next without ever stopping to ask if those activities are truly moving them forward. The super rich do not live this way. They do not allow distractions to dictate their time. They do not let urgency replace importance. They structure their day around what truly matters, eliminating everything that does not contribute to their expansion. They know that every minute spent on something misaligned is a minute stolen from their true purpose. They are not afraid to say no to things that do not serve them. They do not entertain unnecessary meetings, pointless conversations, or commitments that drain their energy. They are ruthless with their focus, not because they are selfish, but because they understand that their time is the most valuable currency they have. They invest it only where it brings the highest return. They also understand the power of deep work. The average person spends their time multitasking, jumping from one thing to another, constantly distracted, never fully present. The super rich, however, operate differently. When they work with full immersion. They do not allow interruptions, they do not switch between tasks, and they do not dilute their energy. They enter a state of complete focus, where time seems to stretch, and results are created effortlessly. They are intentional about how they structure their day. They know when they are most creative, when they have the most energy, and when they need time for rest. They do not force themselves into rigid schedules that go against their natural flow. Instead, they design their days in alignment with their strengths. If their mind is sharpest in the morning, they dedicate that time to their most important work. If their energy dips in the afternoon, they step back and recharge. They do not push through exhaustion for the sake of appearing productive. They move in harmony with their natural rhythms. They also understand the importance of downtime. While the average person feels guilty for taking breaks, the super rich know that rest is an essential part of success. They do not glorify burnout. They do not mistake exhaustion for achievement. They give themselves space to think, to reflect, to allow new ideas to emerge. Some of the greatest breakthroughs come not in moments of forced effort, but in moments of stillness. They know this and they create space for it. They also do not rush. The world teaches people that speed equals success, that the faster they move, the more they accomplish. But the super rich understand that frantic energy creates chaos. They do not rush through tasks just to get them done. They approach everything they do with intention and presence. They move with a sense of purpose, not panic. They trust that everything unfolds in perfect timing, and because they trust this, they do not feel the need to force things into place. Their relationship with time is not one of struggle, it is one of flow. They do not fight against time, nor do they fear running out of it. They trust that there is always enough time for what truly matters. They do not feel behind. They do not compare their timeline to others. And they do not stress over when things will happen. They know that their job is to align their actions with their vision, and the rest will follow. They also leverage time by multiplying it. They do not try to do everything themselves. They do not hold on to tasks that can be delegated. They surround themselves with people who amplify their vision, who free up their time for the things that only they can do. They understand that their genius is in their unique gifts, not in handling every small detail. They do not waste time on things that do not require their direct involvement. They delegate, automate, and eliminate anything that does not serve their highest purpose. While others trade time for money, the super rich trade ideas for wealth. They do not believe in working harder, they believe in working smarter. They do not believe in long hours as a measure of success. They know that a single inspired idea executed well can generate more wealth than years of hard labor. They are not attached to the idea that success must take time. They understand that reality responds to belief. And because they believe that success can come quickly, it often does. Their mastery over time extends beyond work. They do not allow the concept of time to create stress in their lives. They do not worry about aging, for they do not see time as something that diminishes them. They do not fear deadlines, for they know that time will always align in their favor. They do not feel pressure to rush toward goals, for they trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Their energy is calm, deliberate, and unwavering, and because of this, time always seems to work in their favor. This is why they achieve so much more than the average person. It is not because they have more hours in the day, it is because they use time differently. They do not let time control them, they control time. They do not chase after opportunities, they create them. They do not operate from a place of urgency, they operate from a place of certainty. They are not bound by time, for they have mastered the art of bending it to their will. Every choice they make, every action they take, every moment they spend is aligned with their highest vision. They do not waste time on things that do not serve them. They do not allow distractions to pull them away from their purpose. They do not live in reaction, they live in creation. Their relationship with time is one of abundance, not scarcity. They trust it, they respect it, and they use it with intention. And because of this, time always seems to be on their side. The ability to think expansively is one of the greatest secrets of the super rich. While the average person is confined by the limitations of their current reality, The wealthy understand that all reality is shaped by the mind. They do not accept the world as it appears. They see it as fluid, malleable, subject to change in response to their thoughts. Where others see obstacles, they see opportunities. Where others see lack, they see infinite abundance waiting to be claimed. This is not wishful thinking. This is the foundation of their reality. They refuse to think small because they know that small thoughts create small lives. They refuse to think in terms of limitation because they know that limitations only exist in the mind of the beholder. They do not think in terms of what they can afford. They think in terms of what they can create. The average person looks at their bank account and decides what is possible based on the number they see. The wealthy look at their imagination and decide what is possible based on the vision they hold. They know that money is never the issue. Ideas, belief, and alignment are the only things that determine what they can achieve. They do not let temporary circumstances dictate their long-term vision. They see beyond the present moment, beyond their current resources, beyond the illusions of lack. They expand their thinking to include possibilities that others would dismiss as unrealistic. Their thoughts are not cluttered with fear and doubt. They do not engage in the mental chatter that plagues the minds of those who live in scarcity. They do not worry about losing money because they know money is energy and energy is infinite. They do not stress about competition because they understand that creation is limitless. They do not focus on problems because they know that whatever they give attention to expands. Instead, they direct their thoughts only toward what they wish to experience. They hold firm to the belief that anything they desire is already theirs, and because they hold this belief, reality arranges itself accordingly. They think expansively in every area of their lives. They do not settle for average relationships, average experiences, or average results. They do not believe in playing it safe, shrinking their desires, or making compromises out of fear. They expect excellence, and excellence becomes their standard. They do not concern themselves with what others think, nor do they seek permission to live life on their own terms. Their world is one of endless possibilities, and they approach life with the certainty that they are meant to have it all. They are not intimidated by large numbers. Where others see millions or billions and feel overwhelmed, the super-rich see numbers as neutral symbols of energy flow. They do not see wealth as something unattainable. They see it as something natural. They do not attach emotional weight to financial figures, nor do they see money as difficult to obtain. They understand that the moment they expand their thinking to accept greater wealth, the wealth will come. There is no resistance, no hesitation, no questioning whether they deserve it. They know they do. They also refuse to think in terms of sacrifice. The average person believes they must trade time for money, effort for reward, struggle for success. The wealthy do not subscribe to this belief. They understand that the universe operates on expansion, not limitation. They know they can have wealth and freedom, success and peace, prosperity and fulfillment. They reject the idea that they must choose between one and the other. Their minds are open to receiving everything they desire in the easiest, most effortless way possible. They do not engage in self-imposed limitations. They do not tell themselves that success takes time, that wealth is reserved for a select few, or that they must wait for the right circumstances before they can live the life they want. They do not let society's conditioned beliefs dictate what they can achieve. They break free from the mental constructs that hold others back and embrace the truth that there are no limits except the ones they impose upon themselves. Their thoughts are focused on expansion in every way. They think beyond their personal gain and consider how they can create impact on a larger scale. They do not ask, how can I make more money? They ask, how can I create something so valuable that money flows effortlessly to me? They do not ask, how can I get more? They ask, how can I contribute more, give more, expand more? They know that wealth is a byproduct of expansion, and the more they expand their vision, the more abundance flows to them. They surround themselves with others who think expansively. They do not waste time with those who dwell in limitation. They do not entertain conversations about scarcity, struggle, or failure. They immerse themselves in environments that reinforce their belief in possibility. They seek out mentors, partners, and networks that elevate their thinking. They know that the mind absorbs the energy it is exposed to, so they expose themselves only to that which supports their highest vision. They make decisions from the mindset of their future self. The average person makes decisions based on their current circumstances, but the super rich make decisions based on where they are going. They do not ask, "What can I afford now?" They ask, "What would the wealthiest, most successful version of me do?" They embody the energy of the person they wish to become, and in doing so, they accelerate their path to success. They do not wait for proof before they believe. They believe first and the proof follows. They think beyond limitations of time and space. They know that reality is not fixed, that things can change in an instant, that a single shift in consciousness can bring an entirely new reality into existence. They do not operate by linear thinking, where success must unfold step by step over years of effort. They understand quantum leaps, the power of sudden transformation, the ability to move into a new reality simply by changing their perception of what is possible. They are not confined by logic alone. While the world tells them to be realistic, they choose to be expansive. They know that true wealth is created not by following conventional wisdom, but by breaking free from it. They trust their intuition, their instincts, their inner knowing. They do not wait for external validation before they act. They move with certainty, knowing that the moment they claim something in their mind, it begins to manifest in their world. They understand that money is simply a reflection of consciousness. The wealthier the mind, the wealthier the reality. They do not pursue money directly. They expand their thinking and the money follows. They do not chase opportunities. They become the kind of person who attracts them effortlessly. They do not dwell on limitations. They live in the realm of infinite possibilities. This is why the super rich experience a reality so different from the average person. It is not because they were born into privilege, nor is it because they were given something others were not. It is because they dared to think in a way most people never do. They dared to expand beyond what seemed possible. They dared to believe in their own limitless nature. And because they believed it, they became it. The super rich understand that energy is the most valuable currency in the universe. While others measure wealth in dollars, possessions, or status, they measure it in energy, both the energy they project into the world and the energy they allow into their lives. They know that success is not just about effort, strategy, or connections. It is about vibrational alignment. They do not waste energy on anything that does not serve their highest vision. They do not deplete themselves with distractions, negativity, or pointless struggles. They master the art of conserving and directing their energy with intention, and because of this, they move through life with power, ease, and magnetism. They are highly selective about their environment. They do not tolerate spaces that drain them, conversations that lower their frequency, or relationships that pull them backward. They surround themselves only with people, places, and experiences that elevate them. They do not entertain gossip, complaints, or limiting beliefs. They do not give attention to those who doubt them, mock them, or try to instill fear in them. They understand that energy is contagious, and they refuse to absorb energy that does not align with their goals. They do not waste time proving themselves to those who do not understand their vision. Instead, they protect their mental space and engage only with those who uplift and inspire them. Their mornings begin with energy alignment. While others wake up and immediately react to the demands of the day, checking emails, scrolling through news feeds, and absorbing chaotic energy, the super rich take control of their state of being before anything external has the chance to influence them. They do not allow the outside world to dictate their mood, their thoughts, or their direction. They center themselves in stillness, clarity, and focus. Many engage in meditation, visualization, breathwork, or intentional silence. They do not rush into the day haphazardly. They cultivate a sense of inner mastery before stepping into the external world. They prioritize their well-being above all else. They do not sacrifice their health, their peace, or their happiness in the pursuit of success. They understand that a drained, exhausted, or chaotic mind cannot create abundance. They take care of their bodies with intention, nourishing themselves with high-quality food, movement, and rest. They invest in practices that restore their vitality, whether through exercise, nature, mindfulness, or other rituals that keep them in peak condition. They do not buy into the myth that success requires burnout. They know that true power comes from balance, alignment, and sustained energy. They move with intention in everything they do. They do not rush. They do not scatter their energy, and they do not operate from a place of desperation. Their actions are deliberate, precise, and aligned with their goals. They do not waste time on things that do not serve them, nor do they allow their attention to be fragmented by distractions. They know that focus is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, and they protect theirs fiercely. They are not swayed by trends, noise, or fleeting temptations. They remain committed to their vision, and they execute with clarity and purpose. They do not engage in resistance. While others struggle against life, forcing, pushing, and exhausting themselves, the super rich operate from a place of flow. They do not chase after things, they attract them. They do not waste energy worrying about obstacles. They trust that solutions will reveal themselves. They do not engage in fear-based thinking, stressing about the future or regretting the past. They live in the present moment, fully engaged in the now, knowing that all power exists in this space. Their energy is not scattered in 1,000 directions. It is concentrated, potent, and magnetic. They understand the power of detachment. While others become emotionally entangled in outcomes, fearing failure, craving validation, or obsessing over results, the wealthy remain detached. They set their intentions, take aligned action, and then trust the process. They do not micromanage the universe. They do not let temporary setbacks shake their faith. They remain steady in the belief that everything is unfolding in their favor, even when circumstances appear otherwise. They do not react impulsively to challenges. They respond with wisdom, calm, and certainty. They are conscious of their energy exchange in every interaction. They do not engage in transactions, financial or personal, that drain them. They do not do business with people who operate in fear, scarcity, or dishonesty. They do not form partnerships with those who lack vision, drive, or integrity. They are acutely aware that every interaction is an exchange of energy, and they ensure that their exchanges are mutually elevating. They do not operate from desperation or need. They operate from a place of power and choice. They do not allow external circumstances to dictate their internal state. While others are easily influenced by economic downturns, political shifts, or societal trends, the wealthy remain unaffected. They understand that their energy creates their reality, not external conditions. They do not wait for the world to change before they thrive. They create their own thriving reality regardless of what is happening around them. They do not succumb to panic, hysteria, or pessimism. They maintain an unshakable sense of certainty in their ability to create abundance no matter what. They master the art of energetic investment. While others focus solely on financial investments, the wealthy understand that where they place their attention, time, and energy is just as important. They do not waste energy on things that yield no return. They do not engage in mindless entertainment, toxic conversations, or draining habits. They are strategic about how they allocate their energy, ensuring that everything they do contributes to their growth, expansion, and fulfillment. They understand that their most valuable asset is not money. It is their focus, their mindset, and their vibration. They engage in daily rituals to recharge and reset. They do not operate in a constant state of stress, exhaustion, or depletion. They integrate pauses into their day to realign their energy. They take moments of silence, solitude, or reflection to regain clarity. They do not push themselves to the point of burnout. They honor the cycles of rest and rejuvenation. They know that energy is not about endless effort, it is about maintaining alignment. They trust their intuition above all else. While others seek advice, approval, or reassurance, the super rich listen to their inner knowing. They do not second-guess themselves, nor do they rely on external validation. They trust the energy they feel in any situation, and they act accordingly. They know that intuition is their greatest guide, their most powerful tool. and their direct connection to the flow of abundance. The mind is the source of all wealth. What you hold in consciousness shapes your reality, and the truly rich understand this. They do not chase wealth. They assume it, embody it, and live in the end of already possessing it. Their fortune is not built on external conditions, but on a deep inner knowing that they are abundance itself. Look around you and you will see people working tirelessly, believing that effort alone will bring prosperity. Yet, the super rich do not strive in desperation. They are not bound by circumstances, nor do they wait for conditions to improve before they feel wealthy. They assume the feeling of financial freedom long before it appears in their bank accounts. They walk, talk, and move as if wealth is already theirs, and the world merely follows their assumption. Notice how the mind clings to limitation, whispering that wealth is distant, that struggle is necessary. These are illusions, mere reflections of an untrained consciousness. The super rich do not entertain such thoughts. They dwell in a different reality, one where money is as natural as the air they breathe. They do not ask how it will come. They know it is already done. Their imagination is their greatest asset, for they see beyond the physical and live in the invisible world of fulfilled desire. To think like them is to refuse to accept appearances as final. It is to close your eyes to the evidence of lack and instead feel the security of immense wealth within. When they enter a room, they do not seek approval, nor do they shrink in the presence of greater riches. They carry themselves with certainty, knowing that money is an extension of their state of being. They are not attached to wealth, for they understand it is only an expression of their consciousness. If all were taken from them, they would rebuild effortlessly, because the source of their riches is not in things, but in the way they think. They are masters of assumption, living in a world of their own making, unshaken by economic shifts or external forces. The mind is always creating. If it dwells on fear, scarcity follows. If it assumes abundance, wealth must come. The difference between the rich and the poor is not in opportunity or talent, but in what they accept as true. The truly wealthy never doubt their riches, even when the evidence denies it. They persist in their knowing, and the world reshapes itself to match their belief. To live as they do, one must discard old ideas of effort and struggle, and instead embrace the power of imagination. The moment you claim wealth in consciousness, the unseen forces begin their work. Circumstances shift, opportunities appear, and money flows in ways beyond reason. But it begins with thought, with the silent assumption that you already possess all you desire. The mind is the foundation of all wealth. Before a single dollar appears in one's hands, it is first conceived in thought. The truly rich do not chase money, nor do they spend their days in anxious toil, hoping to accumulate wealth through sheer effort alone. They understand that prosperity is not something external that must be sought, but rather a state of being, an inner knowing that manifests itself in the outer world. They assume wealth, live in the awareness of financial freedom, and move through life as though abundance is their natural state. Most people believe that money is something separate from themselves, something to be earned, won, or obtained through luck or hard work. They see wealth as something outside their control, something that belongs to a select few who were born into privilege or had the right opportunities. They believe financial success is determined by external factors, education, economic conditions, or personal connection. This belief keeps them trapped in a cycle of struggle, never realizing that their assumptions about money are the very things keeping it at a distance. The super rich do not operate under this illusion. They know that wealth is not about chance, nor is it dictated by effort alone. It is about consciousness, about the thoughts and feelings one holds about money. They do not entertain thoughts of scarcity, nor do they allow fear of financial loss to take root in their minds. Instead, they cultivate an unwavering belief in their own abundance. They see themselves as wealthy long before the world reflects it back to them. Observe those who struggle financially, and you will notice a pattern in their thinking. They constantly reinforce their lack through words and emotions. They speak of not having enough, of bills piling up, of how difficult life is. They dwell on what they do not have, unknowingly affirming poverty with every thought and conversation. The universe responds by giving them more of what they focus on. More lack, more struggle, more limitation. They may work tirelessly, but their inner state remains one of financial insecurity, and so their external reality never truly changes. Now look at the wealthy. They carry themselves differently. Even in moments of financial downturn, they do not panic. They remain secure, knowing that money is merely an effect of their state of mind. They do not let circumstances dictate their belief in abundance. Even if they were to lose everything, they would rebuild effortlessly, because the source of their wealth is not in material assets but in their consciousness. They assume that money flows to them naturally, that opportunities appear effortlessly, and that wealth is inevitable. Because they hold this belief, it becomes their reality. It is not about pretending or forcing oneself to think positively. It is about embodying the state of financial freedom so deeply that it becomes one's truth. The mind must be trained to reject the appearance of lack, to ignore temporary conditions that suggest money is scarce, and instead hold steadfastly to the knowing that abundance is already present. This is not wishful thinking. It is a fundamental law of reality. The world does not create wealth for you. You create wealth within yourself, and the world simply reflects it back. When a person decides that they are wealthy, when they stop hoping and wishing and instead assume it as an undeniable fact, everything shifts. Their actions change. They no longer move through life in desperation, trying to grasp at wealth with a sense of lack. They become calm, confident, and secure. This shift in identity alters the way they think, speak, and behave. It changes the way others perceive them, drawing new opportunities, resources, and connections that align with their new self-concept. There is a distinct difference between those who see money as something separate from themselves and those who understand that money is an extension of their state of being. The former live in a constant state of wanting, always looking outside of themselves for financial relief. The latter know that they are wealth, that prosperity is an inseparable part of who they are. This difference in consciousness determines everything. If a person were to examine their deepest beliefs about money, they would see the root of their financial situation. Do they truly believe that they are wealthy? Or do they believe that money is difficult to obtain, that they must struggle for every dollar? If there is any doubt, any lingering fear of lack, then their external world will reflect those fears. The subconscious mind does not argue, it simply manifests whatever is impressed upon it repeatedly. To shift into the mindset of the super rich, one must first let go of the idea that wealth is something to be pursued. Instead, one must assume it as already done. This means living, thinking, and feeling as though financial freedom is a present reality, not at some future date, not when conditions improve, but right now. It is not enough to say, "I will be rich." That statement implies that wealth is in the future, always just out of reach. The super rich do not think this way. They live in the certainty that they are wealthy now, even if there is no physical evidence to support it yet. Some may argue that this is unrealistic, that one cannot simply think themselves into wealth. Yet, if one were to study the lives of the most financially successful individuals, they would find a common thread, an unshakable belief in their own prosperity long before they had any reason to believe it. Many of them came from nothing, with no financial backing, no special advantages, but they refused to see themselves as poor. They refused to accept limitation. They trained their minds to dwell only on abundance, to feel as though they already had everything they desired. And through this inner conviction, the outer world rearranged itself to match their assumption. This is not about denial or ignoring financial responsibilities. It is about understanding that circumstances are not fixed, that they are simply reflections of past thoughts and beliefs. Change the inner world and the outer world must follow. The rich understand this implicitly. They do not wait for their bank accounts to confirm their wealth before they believe it. They believe first, and the numbers adjust accordingly. This way of thinking is not reserved for a select few. It is available to anyone willing to discipline their mind, to persist in the assumption of financial freedom, even when external conditions suggest otherwise. The key is to remain unwavering, to refuse to entertain thoughts of lack, to see oneself as wealthy in every way. The mind is the birthplace of all wealth, and once a person truly grasps this, financial freedom becomes inevitable. The world is filled with illusions that bind people to their current circumstances. Everywhere you look, there are signs that reinforce the idea of lack. Bank statements, unpaid bills, economic downturns, and stories of struggle. These external conditions appear so real that most people accept them as absolute truth, believing that their financial situation is dictated by forces outside of themselves. They think that they must wait for conditions to improve before they can feel wealthy, not realizing that their very acceptance of lack is what keeps them trapped in it. The super rich, however, do not see the world this way. They refuse to accept present limitations as permanent or defining. They understand that reality is fluid, shaped by their internal state, and they do not allow temporary circumstances to dictate their sense of wealth and abundance. The mistake many make is that they define themselves by their current financial situation. If they have little money, they see themselves as poor. If they are struggling to pay bills, they believe they are financially stuck. This identification with present circumstances keeps them locked in a cycle where nothing changes. The moment a person says, "I don't have enough," they affirm their own limitation, and the world reflects it back to them. The super rich do not allow such thoughts to take root in their minds. Even if they find themselves in a temporary setback, they never see it as who they are. They hold steadfast to the belief that their wealth is inevitable, regardless of what the outer world shows them in the present moment. Most people live reactively. When they see money in their bank account, they feel secure. When they see an unexpected expense, they feel anxious. Their emotions fluctuate based on external conditions, and because they react to what already is, they keep creating the same reality over and over again. The super rich operate differently. They do not wait for the outer world to change before adjusting their inner world. Instead, they decide what they believe to be true about their wealth and hold that belief unwaveringly, even when circumstances seem to contradict it. The truth is that external reality is nothing more than a reflection of past thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions. Every financial situation a person experiences today is the direct result of what they have assumed to be true in the past. If one continues to react to these conditions, they will only perpetuate them. The key is to ignore the present evidence of limitation and instead fix the mind on the desired reality, the reality where wealth is already present. This is not about ignoring financial responsibilities or pretending that money issues do not exist. It is about recognizing that what is seen today is only a reflection of past thinking, and that it has no power to dictate the future unless one continues to dwell on it. The super rich understand that their belief in abundance must come before the evidence appears. They do not look at their financial statements to determine how they feel about money. They do not let a temporary downturn shake their confidence in their wealth. Instead, they maintain the assumption that they are financially free, regardless of what is happening around them. And because they refuse to accept limitations, their reality eventually conforms to their belief. Most people fall into the trap of waiting. They wait for a raise, for an inheritance, for a lucky break. They wait for circumstances to prove to them that wealth is coming before they allow themselves to feel rich. But the super rich do not wait. They assume wealth now. They feel it before it appears, and in doing so, they summon it into their experience. This is why they never appear desperate or fearful about money. Even in moments when they technically do not have it, they carry themselves with the confidence of those who do. They know that wealth is on its way because they have already claimed it in consciousness. When a person ignores the present evidence of limitation and instead places their full focus on abundance, they activate a shift in reality. The world begins to rearrange itself in response to their new assumption. Opportunities appear where there were none before. Unexpected financial gains come through channels they could not have foreseen. The external world has no choice but to conform to the new inner reality they have chosen to embody. But this requires discipline. It requires the ability to remain steadfast in the belief of abundance, even when everything around suggests otherwise. There is a great difference between wishing for wealth and assuming it. Those who wish for wealth continue to see it as something separate from themselves, something that may or may not come. Those who assume wealth know that it is already theirs, even if the outer world has not yet caught up. They do not look at present circumstances for validation. They do not let a temporary lack of funds shake their inner conviction. Instead, they persist in the state of financial freedom, knowing that the world must eventually reflect their assumption. A common misconception is that this way of thinking is unrealistic, that one must first acquire money before feeling wealthy. But the truth is the opposite. Feeling wealthy first is what brings the money. The mind does not distinguish between reality and imagination. Whatever one repeatedly impresses upon the subconscious becomes the truth that the external world must reflect. The super-rich understand this and use it to their advantage. They assume the feeling of financial abundance long before it physically manifests, and because they hold that assumption consistently, the world shapes itself accordingly. There will always be moments when reality appears to contradict the assumption of wealth. Unexpected expenses may arise, business deals may fall through, economic conditions may fluctuate. But those who think like the super-rich do not waver in their belief. They do not allow temporary setbacks to define them. They know that these are mere illusions, passing reflections of old thoughts that have no power unless they are given attention. Instead of reacting with fear, they remain secure in the knowledge that their wealth is inevitable. They continue to see themselves as financially free, and by doing so, they move effortlessly into a reality where that is true. The mind is the only real barrier to wealth. It is not lack of opportunity, not the economy, not even past financial mistakes. The only limitation is the belief in limitation itself. The super-rich do not entertain such beliefs. They refuse to accept lack as reality. They do not wait for wealth to appear before feeling rich. They feel it now, knowing that the world must conform to their state of mind. This is the key to financial freedom. Not hard work alone, not luck, but the ability to hold the assumption of abundance in spite of present circumstances. To ignore the present evidence of lack is not to deny reality, but to understand that reality is fluid, shaped by thought and belief. It is to recognize that what exists today is merely a reflection of past assumptions, and that by changing those assumptions, the future must change as well. The super-rich understand this at the deepest level. They know that wealth is not something to be earned or acquired, it is something to be assumed. And once assumed, it must appear. Money flows effortlessly to those who see themselves as deserving of it. This is not about arrogance or entitlement, but rather a deep inner conviction that wealth is natural, that prosperity is a state of being rather than a pursuit. The super-rich do not chase money. They do not beg for opportunities. They do not look at wealth as something distant, something they must struggle for. Instead, they radiate an energy of abundance, an unwavering belief that financial prosperity is already theirs. It is this assumption, this quiet certainty, that draws wealth to them effortlessly. Most people operate from a mindset of lack. They see money as scarce, as something they must fight for, as something that requires suffering and sacrifice to obtain. Because they believe this, their reality reflects it back to them. They work harder, push themselves further, yet money always seems to slip through their fingers. They resent those who have it, not realizing that this very resentment keeps it away. They view financial success as an uphill battle, unaware that their struggle is a product of their own beliefs. The super-rich, on the other hand, do not think this way. They do not see money as a challenge, but as an inevitable consequence of their mindset. They carry themselves with the certainty that wealth is their birthright, that it flows to them as naturally as the air they breathe. And because they assume this, it becomes their reality. Most people who struggle financially believe that wealth is something external, something that exists outside of themselves. They think it is determined by luck, by circumstance, by connections. They wait for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right conditions before they allow themselves to feel abundant. But the truth is, wealth begins within. It is not about the external world, it is about the state of mind. The super rich understand this deeply. They know that their financial success is not dependent on the economy, not on the stock market, not on outside forces, but on their own belief system. They believe they are wealthy, and the world conforms to that belief. They do not wait for proof before they assume abundance. They assume it first, and the proof follows. Money is energy, and like all energy, it responds to the vibration one holds. A person who feels desperate, who believes money is hard to come by, who constantly worries about financial security, unknowingly repels wealth. Their energy is one of lack, and so they continue to experience lack. They work harder, they try new strategies, but nothing seems to shift because their internal state has not changed. The super rich, however, do not operate from desperation. They do not send out signals of need or scarcity. Instead, they hold the vibration of abundance, moving through the world with ease, confidence, and expectation. Their inner state is one of already having, and because they feel as if they already possess wealth, it manifests effortlessly. It is not about effort alone. So many people believe that if they just work harder, they will break through financially. But working harder from a state of lack only produces more lack. This is why so many individuals put in endless hours, pushing themselves to exhaustion, yet see no real shift in their financial situation. They do not realize that effort without the right mindset is futile. The super rich do not work hard in desperation. They work with purpose, with clarity, with a deep knowing that success is already theirs. Their effort is directed and intentional, not frantic or scattered. They do not operate from a place of fear, but from a place of inner certainty. To think like the super rich is to release any thought of limitation. It is to stop believing that wealth is difficult to attain, that financial freedom is reserved for a select few. It is to drop the mindset of struggle and instead step into the feeling of ease. The moment one stops chasing wealth and instead assumes it, the entire reality shifts. The external world is a mirror, always reflecting what one believes to be true. When an individual believes they are financially free, when they carry themselves with a quiet assurance that wealth is already theirs, the world begins to move in ways that align with that assumption. People often believe that confidence comes after success. They think that once they have the money, then they will feel secure, then they will feel powerful. But the truth is the opposite. Confidence comes first. It is the inner state of certainty that attracts wealth, not the other way around. The super rich are not waiting for proof of their abundance. They do not need a bank statement to confirm their wealth. They assume it without external validation. Their certainty is unshaken, and because they hold that inner confidence, money flows to them naturally. There is a profound shift that happens when one stops seeking wealth and instead starts embodying it. The moment a person stops seeing themselves as someone who wants money and instead sees themselves as someone who has money, everything changes. The super rich do not define themselves by temporary circumstances. They do not let financial setbacks shake their belief. They persist in their assumption of abundance, knowing that reality must conform to it. They do not react to what is. They focus on what they know is coming, and because they do, their external world rearranges itself in response. Fear is what keeps most people trapped. Fear of not having enough, fear of losing what they have, fear of the unknown. Fear creates resistance, and resistance blocks the flow of wealth. The super rich do not operate from fear. They trust. They trust that money is always available, that opportunities are endless, that their financial success is inevitable. They do not question whether they will be wealthy. They know they are wealthy, and that knowing shapes their world. Many people say they want wealth, but deep down they do not truly believe it is possible for them. They carry hidden doubts, lingering fears, subconscious beliefs that keep them stuck. They desire money, but they also believe that making money is hard, that rich people are greedy, that financial freedom is out of reach. These conflicting beliefs cancel out their desires, keeping them in the same financial patterns year after year. The super rich have no such inner conflicts. They are clear. They see themselves as wealthy, they believe it fully, and because they do, they attract wealth effortlessly. It is never about waiting for external circumstances to change. It is about changing the internal state first. The world simply mirrors back the beliefs one holds about money. When a person shifts their assumption, when they move from a mindset of lack to a mindset of abundance, the world must respond accordingly. The super rich have mastered this principle. They do not hope for wealth. They expect it. They do not wish for success. They assume it. And because they do, money moves to them effortlessly, opportunities appear in unexpected ways, and their financial reality aligns with the certainty they hold within. The world reflects back to you the beliefs you hold most strongly. If you believe money is difficult to obtain, it will always seem just out of reach. If you see wealth as something reserved for others, your reality will continue to confirm that belief. But if you truly accept that abundance is natural, that prosperity is yours by right, then everything around you will shift to match that assumption. The super rich do not wait for financial success to believe in their wealth. They assume it now. They live as though it is already theirs. And because they hold this inner conviction, the world conforms to it. Most people separate themselves from wealth. They see it as something external, something to be pursued, something outside of themselves. They think of it as a future goal, something they might achieve one day if they work hard enough, if they are lucky enough, if the right circumstances align. But by placing money in the future, they keep it there. By seeing it as distant, they ensure it remains just out of reach. The super rich do not think this way. They do not see wealth as something outside of themselves. They embody it now. They assume the identity of a wealthy person long before their external circumstances catch up. It is not about spending beyond your means or pretending to have money you do not. It is about the internal shift, the change in mindset that allows wealth to flow effortlessly. When you believe in your own financial success, when you carry yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who is already abundant, you begin to make decisions differently. You see opportunities where others see obstacles. You take action with certainty instead of hesitation. You attract people and circumstances that align with your inner state. The external world always adjusts to match what you assume to be true. Many people look at their bank account and feel discouraged. They let numbers dictate their emotions. If they see a low balance, they feel fear. If they lose money, they feel anxiety. They react to circumstances as if they are permanent, as if their financial situation is something outside their control. But the super rich do not allow temporary conditions to define their mindset. They do not look at what is, they focus on what is becoming. They hold their vision steady, knowing that reality must bend to match their inner assumption. Most people think they must see proof before they can believe in their wealth. They wait for success to feel successful. They wait for money to feel abundant. But the truth is, belief must come first. You must hold the inner conviction before the external reality appears. The super rich understand this deeply. They know that what they assume to be true becomes true. They do not need validation from the world. They create their own certainty. They feel wealthy before they have the evidence, and because they do, the evidence inevitably appears. This is not about forcing yourself to think positively. It is not about repeating empty affirmations while secretly doubting yourself. It is about a deep, unwavering knowing, a state of being. The moment you decide with absolute certainty that you are financially free, you begin to align with that reality. Your choices change. Your energy shifts. You no longer act from desperation or fear. You move with confidence, knowing that money is always flowing to you, and because you believe this, it becomes your experience. Doubt is the greatest obstacle to wealth. Most people sabotage themselves with hesitation, with second guessing, with fear of failure. They dream of financial success, but they also hold limiting beliefs that contradict their desires. They want abundance, but they believe money is difficult to obtain. They desire wealth, but they feel guilty about having more than others. These inner conflicts create resistance, blocking the natural flow of prosperity. The super rich have no such contradictions. They are clear. They know what they want, they believe in it fully, and they do not entertain doubt. The key is to see yourself as wealthy now, not someday, not when the circumstances are right, not when your income increases. Now, the moment you shift your self-concept, everything begins to change. Your subconscious mind starts to work in alignment with your new identity. You take actions effortlessly that bring wealth into your life. You see opportunities that were previously invisible. You attract people and situations that align with your assumption of abundance. People often say, "I will believe it when I see it." But the truth is, you will see it when you believe it. The external world is simply a reflection of your internal state. If you wait for proof before you assume wealth, you will always be waiting. The super rich assume it first, and the proof follows. They do not question whether they will be wealthy, they assume they already are. They walk through life with a quiet confidence, an inner certainty that money is always available, that their financial success is inevitable. And because they hold this assumption so deeply, the world cannot help but reflect it back to them. Many people think they must take massive action to achieve financial success. They believe they must struggle, sacrifice, push themselves to the limit. They equate wealth with effort, thinking that if they just work hard enough, they will finally break through. But effort without belief is meaningless. If you work from a place of lack, if you take action while doubting your success, you will only reinforce struggle. The super rich do not operate this way. They take action from a place of certainty. They do not hustle in desperation. They move with purpose, knowing that success is already theirs. The shift happens internally first. You must decide who you are. You must see yourself as wealthy now, even if your current circumstances do not yet reflect it. You must hold the feeling of abundance so strongly that it becomes your natural state. And when you do, everything around you will adjust to match your assumption. Money will begin to flow in unexpected ways. Opportunities will appear effortlessly. You will no longer have to chase wealth. It will be drawn to you. Most people are trapped by their current reality. They look at what is, and they allow it to define what is possible. They think their financial situation is fixed, that their income is limited, that they are bound by circumstances. But the super rich do not think this way. They do not let their present conditions dictate their future. They hold their vision steady, knowing that reality must conform to their belief. They assume wealth before they see proof. And because they do, the proof always comes. You are always creating your financial reality, whether you realize it or not. Every thought, every belief, every assumption shapes your experience. If you believe money is scarce, it will be. If you see yourself as someone who struggles financially, you will continue to struggle. But the moment you shift your assumption, the moment you decide that wealth is already yours, everything changes. The world begins to rearrange itself to match your new belief. Money flows where it is expected. Opportunities appear where they are assumed. The super rich do not wait for evidence before they believe in their success. They do not react to circumstances, they create them. They decide who they are, they assume wealth with absolute certainty, and because they do, their world shifts to match their assumption. This is the secret, this is the difference between those who struggle and those who thrive. It is not about luck, not about effort alone, but about the deep, unwavering belief that financial freedom is already yours. And when you hold this belief so strongly that it becomes your reality, nothing can stop wealth from flowing effortlessly into your life. Money flows to those who expect it. The super rich do not chase wealth. They are attracted by the way they think, the way they feel, and the way they move through the world. Most people believe they need to work harder, to push themselves, to struggle in order to achieve financial success. But the truth is, effort alone does not create wealth. There are countless people who work tirelessly and yet remain stuck in the same financial position year after year. The difference is not in how much effort is applied, but in the belief that drives the effort. When you believe wealth is difficult to obtain, every action you take will reinforce that belief. But when you believe abundance is natural and effortless, money begins to flow to you in unexpected ways. The super rich understand that money is simply energy, and like all energy, it responds to frequency. If you constantly worry about money, if you feel anxious about paying bills, if you fear losing what you have, you are operating from a state of lack. And when you vibrate at the frequency of lack, you attract more of it. But when you shift your mindset, when you assume the energy of wealth, when you expect financial abundance to come easily, your reality begins to reflect that assumption. The universe responds to certainty, not doubt. When you expect money to flow to you, it does. When you move through life with the quiet confidence that you are always financially supported, wealth finds its way to you effortlessly. Most people hesitate when it comes to money. They feel guilty about wanting more. They doubt whether they deserve it. They fear what others might think. But the super rich do not carry these doubts. They know that wealth is not something to be earned through suffering. It is something to be claimed by right. They do not chase money in desperation. They assume it is already theirs. And because they expect it, they recognize opportunities that others overlook. They make decisions without fear. They trust their instincts, knowing that money is always flowing in alignment with their beliefs. If you want to attract wealth effortlessly, you must first change your relationship with money. See it not as something distant, not as something that requires struggle, but as something that is naturally drawn to you. Expect it to come. Move with the energy of someone who is already financially free. Speak, act, and think as if money is always flowing into your life. When you hold this belief unwaveringly, when you no longer question whether abundance is yours, the world will align to reflect that assumption. Money will no longer feel like something you must chase. Instead, it will move toward you, effortlessly, as a natural extension of who you are.